Hi, today we're going to be learning how to calculate the surface area and volume of square pyramids. Before we do that, let's review the volume of a prism. In previous videos, we figured out that to calculate the volume of a prism, you need to take the area of the base, which we use capital B to represent, and then multiply it by the height of the prism. But how can we use this knowledge to help us derive the formula for the volume of a pyramid? Let's go ahead and watch this video and try to fill out these blanks over here. So from the video, you can see that it takes 3 pyramids to fill a prism, which means the volume of a pyramid is 1/3 the volume of a prism. So if this is the volume of our prism, what we're going to need to do in order to revise this is we're just going to need to multiply everything by 1/3. Another way that you can think about this is if we take the area of the base and the height and just divide everything by 3. Keep this in mind for later when we're solving for the volume of our pyramids. Alright, so here's an example of a square pyramid. Let's go ahead and start by solving for its surface area. So we're starting off with surface area. And I want to start by identifying each of the sides that I see in this pyramid. So typically in a prism, there would be a top and a bottom side. But notice that the tip of the pyramid does not have a top, which means let's go ahead and start off our list by labeling the bottom. So I'm going to start with bottom. I notice that I have all these sides around the bottom as well. So I have a front and a back. So I'm going to label front and back. And I notice that I have these 2 sides on the left and the right as well. So we can actually just call those the side and other side. So let's start with the bottom. So here's the bottom side. I notice that our base, our bottom, is a square. So to find the area of the square, I'm just going to do its length times its width. So both the same, 6 times 6. So 6 times 6 is equal to 36. Now let's talk about these 4 sides. Because we have a square pyramid, what that means is that each of these triangular sides all the way around are going to be the same. So if I find the area of one of the sides, that means it's going to be the same area for each of these 4. So let's just go ahead and use this triangle over here to help us solve for our area. Remember, that area is going to be the same thing all the way around. So to find the area of our triangle here, I know that I need to do 1/2 times the base of the triangle. So here's our base, 6 times the height of the triangle, and it's given here 5. All of these multiplied is going to get me 15. Now if one of the sides, let's say the front is 15, that means the back and each of these sides are 15 as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that in. All right, now let's add up all 5 sides of our pyramid. So we're going to add 36 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 and plus another 15. All of this gets me a total of 96, and my units are going to be inches squared. And that's the surface area. So let's sort of break down what we just did. The first thing that we started off by finding was the bottom. The bottom was a square. So I'm just going to go ahead and label each of these B for, let's say, the base, right? So if this is B, this is also B as well, since they are the exact same numbers. So over here for the bottom, what we've done is we've essentially done base B times base times itself. So let's start off our formula by doing base times base, or B times B. That's the first part. Now let's move on to this part down here. So I've already labeled this base that I used for the triangle. Let's go ahead and label this side as well. This side we'll call the height of the triangle, but in terms of the entire pyramid, this is actually going to be called our slant height. So I'm going to use S to identify our slant, which is 5. So what we've done is we've taken 1/2 times the base and then times the slant height. And we've done that 4 times. All right, so to put this into our formula here, essentially what we've done is we've taken 4 times each of the areas of the triangle. So that's going to be 1/2 times the base times the slant. Now let's condense everything. So another way to write base times base is just to say base squared. I'm going to add that 2. Let's simplify this. 4 times 1/2 is going to get me 2. And then b times s is going to remain the same. And that's the formula for surface area of a square pyramid. All right, let's go ahead and move on to volume. So in the past, when we've calculated the volume, what we usually do is we take the area of the base, which in this case is just going to be the bottom, so 36, and then we multiply it by the height, or however many layers there are. So in this case, our height is going to be 4. So there's 4 layers. But remember in the video that we just watched, this is for the volume of a prism. If I want to find the volume of a pyramid, I'm going to have to multiply everything by 1/3, or you could divide everything by 3. They mean the same thing. So all of this multiplied is going to get me 48 inches cubed. And this is our volume. If I want to write that in a formula, what I've done is I've taken this 1/3, multiplied it by the area of the base, which is 36, and then I've multiplied it by the height, which in this case is going to be our 4. So we're going to just label it h for height. So this is h. Now to simplify this, let's kind of think about what the capital B represented. What we did for the bottom was we did b times b. In other words, b squared. So if I want to condense this, I can take 1/3. I'll multiply it by, instead of capital B, I'll do b squared and then times h. And that's the volume of a square pyramid. All right, let's try again with a different square pyramid. So again, I'm going to start off with surface area. And for my surface area, I'm going to start by labeling my sides. So I see I have a bottom. I also have this front and back triangles, which are going to be the same. So front, back. I also have these 2 triangles on the side, also the same thing. Side and then side. So let's start off with this bottom square. So I see dimensions are 20 by 20, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. 20 times 20 is going to get me 400. Let's move on to each of these triangular sides. Remember, they're all going to be the same. So even though I'm going to write this in the front, I can still use this side triangle and it'll all be the same areas. So we're going to start off with 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which is 20, times the height of the triangle, which is 16.4. All of this multiplied is going to get us 164. If one of the sides is 164, that means all 4 of these sides are 164 as well. So I'm just going to write that in. And let's add up all 5 sides of our square pyramid. I end up getting 1,056, and our units are meters squared. And that's our surface area. Now let's go ahead and try applying this formula over here. So I'm going to start with labeling my B and my S. So I know that down here, I'm going to have my base, or my B, and here where the slant height is my S. Let's plug that into the formula. So we're going to start with B squared. So that's going to be 20 squared plus 2 times B times S. So 2 times 20 times our slant, 16.4. All right, let's simplify this. 20 squared is going to get me 400, plus all of this multiplied is going to get me 656. This is all equal to 1056 meters squared, the exact same surface area. Okay, now we can move on to volume. So for volume, I'm going to take 1/3. I'm going to multiply it by the area of the base or bottom, which is 400 in this case. And then I'm going to multiply it by however many layers there are, which in this case is 13. So that's our height. All of this multiplied gets me 1733.3. I'm just going to round it to the nearest tenth. And then this is meters cubed. And that's our volume. If we want to try applying the volume formula, it's going to start again with 1/3 times B squared is going to be 20 squared, and then times our H. Our H in this case is going to be the height of the pyramid, which is 13. So I'm going to do times 13. Again, all of this multiplied gets me 1,733.3 meters cubed. And that's how you solve for the surface area and volume of a square pyramid. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment with any questions or topics you'd like to see next. Bye!